Good evening, and welcome to another episode of OmenG's Stupid Scary Stories. Tonight's tale is number 90, and I told you it was going to be a special one. Why is it special, you say? Because it's 90. And because this idea was something that I sparked in my little brain, well, not little brain, average sized brain, when I was doing a live on Instagram yesterday with my sons about tasting orange soda, and one of my followers, who happens to be from Scotland, in the Highlands, the Lowlands, or the Midlands, not sure which ones, but he's in the lands of Scotland, and he's on holiday with his family, and his son has a very interesting name, Garion. Garion the Great. Well, and that's going to be the basis of my story. So my story is dedicated to my friend across the pond in the Highlands, Lowlands, or Midlands of Scotland, the Scotch Sonnet, and family. So, let us begin our tale. Can we begin our tale? Thank you. Was doing a live the other day. Like I was telling you, me and my sons, we do this thing called Tasting the World with the Chaos Project. We try different stuff. Lately it's been mostly sodas, because where we are now has way more flavors and varieties of soda than where we're from. So that's kind of dominated what we're doing. Oh, that's not the point. The point is, we were doing our live. A friend of mine named Scotch Sonnet happened to hop on the live. We were just talking about this and talking about that. I saw my sons there, and I was like, yeah, you have a son or a daughter and a son, or a daughter and no son, or a son. And he's like, yes. He told me his son's name. His name is Garion. Garion. And I was like, I've heard this name before in mythological tales. He's like, well, we got it from this fantasy series that we read. We thought the name was pretty cool, so we named him that. And I said, well, in the story that I read, which is prophecy, this Garion would be born to a man who was a scribe of sorts. You are somewhat of a scribe, Scotch Sonnet. He says, I dabble. I was like, no, you don't just dabble. You weave intricate webs of linguisticness. Dance upon the ears of people. He's like, I wouldn't go that far. I was like, well, I'm going that far, because this is kind of coincidental that your son's name is Garion. Yeah, Garion, I told you where we got the name from. Reese, what the hell's wrong with you? You're scaring me. You're acting a little crazier than usual. I don't think I like this too much. I said, well, let me tell you the story of Garion the Great. Garion the Great? Yes. Well, let me listen to that. That sounds interesting. Garion the Great. Okay, so what is this story of Garion the Great? Thousands of years ago, the Earth was ruled by gods from other planets in different dimensions. There was a war here. A war. A great war. One like this Earth has never seen since. It makes all the wars that we fought look like minor border skirmishes. You get what I'm saying? Minor skirmishes. Now, this war, of course, there were humans. They were caught in the middle of it. They wanted nothing to do with this. In fact, they were quite upset that these beings from other planets and dimensions were tearing across their beautiful Earth, destroying things. Descendant of the most powerful tribe of humans came forth, spoke to one of the gods, said, listen, man, this shit's gotta stop. They're messing up our farmland. They're destroying our livestock, our homes, cities, villages. burned to the ground. It has nothing to do with us. We need you to help us to stop this nonsense. Our existence is at stake. There'll be no more worship. Your power will cease to exist if you don't help us. God stepped down from his throne, looked at young Jorah, and said, "Hey, I get what you're saying. I'm kind of getting tired of this shit myself. They're messing up my project that I've been working on for eons. I mean, you think it takes 4 or 5 days to create such wondrous beauty? No. It took me millennia to get it just like this. And you're right, they are trashing my shit, and I'm tired of it. Here's what I'm gonna do. Your tribe seems to be the most, well, it is the most, I'm the god here. I know what the most powerful tribe is. You're the most powerful tribe. Because you guys, you believe in me more than the others do. You haven't strayed away from the way things are supposed to be. So, I will grant your tribe with the powers, a small amount, that I have. You'll become superhuman. You'll be able to command the air and the wind and the seas and the fires of this land. But one of you will be able to command all of them together. Only one. Of my choosing. And I'm not going to choose him for at least another 10 years. Oh, come on! 10 more years of this? Yes! 10 more years? This person must be born. Must be born in a land that has been torn apart. Almost to the brink of destruction, it must be. He must know nothing but this destroyed earth. So that he will listen to your stories of when it was a beautiful time. Or she. And will bring you back to the days when man was great and I was the ruler. Jorah was not too happy about this because, he was an old guy. He didn't really think he was going to live another 10 fucking years. Especially with the way things were going. You know what I'm saying? So reluctantly, he steps away from the god, bows down, kisses his feet, walks off, goes back to the village, tells the rest of the people who had gathered upon hearing his arrival to tell them what was going to happen. Jorah! Tell us, what did the gods say? He has said this. We shall have to wait 10 years for the Great One to come to us. He will be born, or she will be born to us. We shall not know who it is. But when this happens, he will bless us with the powers of beyond our imagination. A fraction of them. But this Great One will have the powers of a god. He will lead us to a time where life was on harmonious balance and these goddamned interdimensional beings and aliens weren't destroying our shit. But 10 years, Jorah. 10 years? 10 years? Yes, I said it's 10 years. Don't you think I'm a little bit angry about it? I'm like 95 years old. I don't know if I have 10 years left and I want to see things better. They kind of shuffled around. They were mad. You know what I'm saying? They weren't too happy about this shit. And how could they be? Things were bad. Aliens just come through there, fuck their shit up for no reason. They had no beef with the humans, but they didn't respect them. So, they'll see a little village there or some shit. Like one of these interdimensional beings will pop up. They'll fucking level the whole goddamn village. I gotcha! Oh, sorry, humans. You should, duck next time. Anyway, years go on. Wars raging, ever worse as the years go by. Every year, more of the earth is scorched, left uninhabitable, at least for the time being. man grew desperate. Grew desperate. The scattered tribes that weren't with the more powerful tribes ceased to exist. All that was left of the human population, which was fragmented at once, finally started to come together. And by the 10th year, the year of the birth of the Great One, well, all that was left of humanity had finally come together. Their last stronghold, their last bastion of peace. Some mountains on the Isle of Junjabam, Jingbinjibum. And I'm not going to say that again, so you got to remember it now. Now, this woman, don't know what her name was, they don't mention it in the stories that I've read, gave birth to a child. 2 children, actually. Twins. Male and female. She named them Garion and Gariana. That's what I just said. What? Oh, sorry. I thought I heard somebody ask me a question. Anyway, Garion and Gariana were born. Upon their birth, they both had a mark right down the middle of their forehead. Sort of like Avatar the Airbender, but it wasn't a diamond in his head. It was just a mark. Now, these marks, when they were together, within close proximity, would glow. They would glow a fiery red, as if pulsating with energy unknown. It was at this time that Jorah, upon his deathbed, had witnessed these children's birth. He asked the mother to bring them to him. Or he asked someone to go ask the mother to bring them to him, because he's on his deathbed, so he wasn't there when she was giving birth and shit. He was in his own little house. Please bring them so that I may lay eyes upon the great ones. They brought the children in there. He reached his feeble old hand out to touch the children. Not in a sick way, just to feel the greatness. And as soon as he touched them, a light flashed brightly. And he was young again. Young, strong, clad in armor shining of gold and silver and platinum. A sword in his hand, a great sword, teeming with electrical energy. A shield that would turn to stone just as he thought of it. From his back sprouted wings like a dragon. He roared a mighty roar. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to hurt my throat. And it was then when their God showed himself. He said, "See, Jorah, I told you I would fulfill my end of our agreement, and you will see the peace, because you will bring that peace." "Yes, I will," Jorah said. Strong voice he had now. The 2 children, young as they were, babies, they were just born, newborns, started to grow immediately. They were special children. Unlike any children ever birthed on this earth. They were hybrids. See, the God had went around sticking his nose in business. He would find the slain bodies of the enemies of these humans. He'd take a little bit of DNA here, take a little bit of DNA there. He did some godlike magic and created these beings. 2 of them, as I told you. Their mother was just a host. There was no father to these children. But, unbeknownst to the god himself, when he introduced this mix into the mother, it gave them human DNA. Now, he already fashioned them to look like humans, with some slight differences. But he did not expect them to be able to reproduce. That wasn't part of his plan. But we'll get to that a little later on. Jorah raised a mighty army. His two great children, as he adopted them, the mother had to have been slain, because there's no more spoken of her in the story. So I'm going to assume either she died giving birth to the children. Yeah, that's what happened. She died giving birth to the children. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. She died. So we've gotten that out of the way. We don't have to worry about where she's at now. So Jorah, in his new form, adopts the children as his own. Tells them they're his kids. Now these children grow, like let's say about a year, every 6 months. They mature. Until finally they are around the age of, let's say, 18. Right? I'm not going to sit here and break it down. How many months that is, who cares? How many years that is, it doesn't matter. It's half the time, okay? So in 9 years, they were 18 years, okay? Now, this war has been raging for all this time. But they can't touch this bastion, this stronghold that the humans now have. Jorah protects it with the children. He tells the children, "You are great. Your powers are powers unlike any other. You are stronger even than me." And of course, up to this point, Jorah was the strongest thing that they had ever seen. His armor, his sword, his shield, his wings. His ability to just strike down these aliens and interdimensional beings was something that they had never seen before. They knew nothing of their history. Jorah told them when they were 18, as the god had told them he was supposed to do. He told them of their powers, of the things that they could do, of their greatness. That they would be the ones to lead mankind back to the greatness and peace that they had once known before these freaking hijacking aliens and interdimensional beings came to their land to destroy shit. Now, of course, Garion, he idolized Jorah. He looked up to him. He saw him as a father. A great father he was. Now, the sister, Garion, did not. Now, you're probably wondering why she's been raised by him just like Garion. Well, part of the god's design was to create a balance. See, he couldn't create one being with so much great power and leave that one being in the hands of the humans forever. There had to be the balance to that. And the sister was the balance, unbeknownst to any of them. See, her purpose was to keep Garion in check. Now, this wouldn't come to pass for a few years down the line. Let's fast forward. The war is over. The aliens ran back to their homes on planets elsewhere. The interdimensional beings stopped coming into our dimension. They were afraid of Garion and his sister. The powers that they wielded were just too much for them to take. After the war and the rebuilding of the land became the next project, humans once again did what humans normally do. Began fighting amongst themselves. They wanted power too. They wanted to be great, like Jorah and his children. Many assassination attempts were made against Jorah. Of course, none of them succeeded, as long as he had the children. But he favored Garion. You know, as king of the lands, he had promised Garion that he would rule when his time was up. And his time was up, coming very soon. See, once the Earth was returned to its balance, once these aliens and interdimensional beings were scattered back to their places of origin, Jorah's powers rescinded, and he became a feeble old man once again upon his deathbed. Garion came to him. Father, I fear that the time is close.
Yes, I have moments, my son. Where's your sister?
I don't know. I've been looking for Garion myself. It would seem that she has slipped out in the night. I have dispatched men to find her. This is unlike her. I don't trust what may be coming.
What do you mean?
I feel unwhole, Father, as if something has been torn from me.
No. Oh, the god. Why?
And then Jorah died. So he knew something he didn't think, but he knew. You know what I mean? Like, the God didn't tell him, but he kind of figured there's no way in the world God's going to give us all this power, and we have control of all this power. Garion assumed command of all the armies under the kingdom of the Great Ones. They set out to find his sister, Garion. It was found that she had begun her own kingdom in the fiery lands of Volcanus. Volcanic lands, ash, molten fire. And she tore a rift into the dimension of fire and terrible brimstone suffering, and brought forth from it creatures never before seen, even in the times of war. Creatures born of fire. Creatures born of pain, born of suffering. Demons, if you will. She vowed to destroy all that had been created. To destroy all that they had fought to bring peace to. She vowed to destroy it if it was her last breath. She sent her minions with a message to Garion. He sat upon the throne, sipping his wine. What is this message thou bring me? It is from your sister, sire. My sister? Has she been found? Yes. Well, where is she? She is in the lands of Volcanus. Volcanus? No man can live there. You are not men. This is true. But why would she be there alone? She's not alone. Read the message, sire. Read the message. As Garion read, tears fell from his face, and when they hit the ground, smoke rose, fire began to burn. He stood up from his throne. Tell the men, ready themselves for war. But, sire, it has been peace for years. Why shall we go to war? My sister has sworn to destroy all that we have built. The blood of the men and women and children that were lost in this decades-long fucking fight for survival. She has... Oh, we must prepare the men for war! Ask me no questions! Do as I say! His eyes glowed blue with electrical fucking energy. Garion was enraged. He was enraged. How could his sister do this? Why would his sister do this? He looked at his dead father, kissed him upon the forehead, touched him and his body turned to ash. I will not let you down, Father. This peace that we fought hard for shall not be destroyed, not by anyone. Now, no one knew at the time that Garion or his sister were able to reproduce. They didn't even know. Not that they didn't think that they could, but they didn't know. They were too busy being great ones, godlike beings. You know? They had never thought of taking a wife or a husband. But Gariana, well, she had been corrupted purposely by the gods so that they never grew and had more power to overthrow him. It was a trick. He was the one behind this interdimensional war in the first place. He enticed it, but they weren't aware of it at the time. No. Gariana's corrupted, twisted, depraved mind was just that. Corrupted, twisted, and depraved. Things that she did to the humans that she caught was... We're not going to talk about it. It'll give you nightmares. Hellish nightmares. Nightmares that'll... You just have really bad nightmares. I don't want that to happen to you. Anyway. She was very lustful, Gariana. An appetite was insatiable for the things that, you know, one who's lustful has an appetite for. Okay? She would have concubines. I know that's usually a term used for women, but in her case, they were men. Human men she would enslave to service her, do her bidding. And every time she would become pregnant, she would lose the child. This angered her. This angered her greatly. She couldn't have anything of her own that she created. At least, not until she met Baal, the demon archduke. One of hers that she brought forth from this dimension. But he had power. Not as much as her, but much power. It was one day she had commanded them to go on an expedition into the lush jungle lands and burn them to the ground. He defied her. I will do no such thing. How dare you? Do you know who you speak to, demon? I am Gariana, the greatest of the greatest. I will destroy you. She reached her hands into him to rip out his heart. There was no heart. It was at this time she looked at him and he looked at her. They fell into an embrace. Finally, she had found something that was somewhat equal to her. They did what, two people who are entangled like that do. She became pregnant with the child of Baal. A female was born rather quickly. She named her Esmeralda. Oh, Esmeralda was the embodiment of pure evil. Pure evil. Now, during this time period that she's doing what she's doing, Garion is searching for a way to get to Volcanus. It's a long journey. They didn't have, jets and boats. They had boats, but not fast boats, just regular old-timey boats. They've sailed seas, fighting her creatures along the way. Many of his men dying in the process. Small village atop a mountain near the shore. He met a woman. Beautiful woman. He fell madly in love with her. He had never felt this feeling before. They did what, people in love do. She became pregnant. But he left. And she never mentioned it to him. Yeah, Garion's a baby daddy. But we'll get to that. You'll understand the importance of that soon. As he continues on his journey, his army dwindling man by man by man as he goes, he finally reaches the lands of Volcanus. His ragged men step foot on shore and are greeted by the archdemon Baal and his massive demon army, all snarling creatures of nightmares, twisted souls, grotesque beasts, unlike anything you could even imagine. You wouldn't imagine them. You wouldn't want to. They'd snatch your life from you even in your thoughts. That's how terrifying they were. Baal said to Garion, "Turn around now. You have no business here. I'm here to see my sister and put an end to this nonsense. She helped to fight for this world. Why would she now want to destroy it?" Baal didn't give two shits about what the fuck Garion was saying. He told his army with a mighty roar to attack. The ragged men on shore. Ragged. I mean, they were starving, or so they seemed. It was a trick. Garion had cast a spell of illusion, which made the demons think that what they were attacking were a small band of raggedy-ass, skinny, starving men, when in fact, Garion had bought his best. His best. Giants, berserkers, warriors with a fervor for battle like you've never seen. Rival even those of the Vikings. They charged at the line of demons. And demons weren't used to this. You have to understand, they're so nightmarishly ghoulish that most people that ever saw them would run in terror or just freeze. And they would have their way with them. But no, these men charged in. Charged! Swords and axes and spears in hand, maces, and all types of medieval weapons. Arrows were loosed from the ships. Cannons fired into the ranks of the demons, scattering limb from head, from trunk of body. Blood and guts were everywhere, and they charged right into it, sometimes being hit by their own cannon fire, even their own arrows. They didn't care. They were in a frenzy, and the only thing they wanted was the death of every demon standing in front of them. The demons charged in as well, cackling, laughing, screaming. Bloody murder. Baal stood atop the flaming volcano, commanded its eruption. Lava flowed, burning demon and human alike, until there were no demons or humans left on the field of battle, just smoking husks, molten rock. Garion stepped forward. Baal stepped forward. They looked at each other, sized each other up. Garion drew the sword that Jorah had given him, or given him, however you want to say it, who cares? You know what I mean. The charge of electricity ran through it, coursed through his body, and encased him in an electrical-like armor. It was magnificent to behold. Bale extended his sharp claws, long as they were, like swords on his hand. A fierce battle ensued. I'm telling a story right now, sir. You're gonna have to call me back. That's okay. Now, as I was saying, a fierce battle ensued. Fierce! Sword strikes, sparks flying, fire everywhere. Neither of them could get the best of each other. But Garion wasn't using his full power. He was just sizing up the demon before him. Garion stepped back, sheathed his sword, put his shield upon his back, raised his fists, and looked at Bale and laughed. Your death is imminent. My death? No, you should never have put away your sword, puny human. Your death. And as he was speaking, he turned into a solid rock and crumbled into dust. Garion's powers were great. He was toying with them. Now, as Bale turned into dust and started to blow into the wind, you could hear the shriek of a broken heart. It was Garion. Sad, heartbroken. She loved Bale. Absolutely loved him. Garion! Damn you. Why have you done this? We were together in fighting. We are brother and sister. You bastard. That was the love of my life. He gave me purpose. You had a purpose, woman. It was the peace of this land. And when the peace came, what was my purpose then? I tried to have children with men, and none of them lived. He was the only one who was able to give me a child. A child? Garion, no. What child? When he said this, a spear pierced through his shoulder from the back. Ah! He fell to the ground. Behind him, floating in the air, was Esmeralda. Pure evil, pure evil. Half demon, half greatness. All evil. Garion floated over to her brother. Sword in hand, ready to strike him down with a death blow. He rolled over, broke the spear tip out, and stood back up. Why have you done this? We are not supposed to have children, Garion. We were created for a purpose, and that purpose we have served. It is time for us to go. Where? To where we belong, sister. Back to oblivion. Back to our God. Tears welled up in her eyes. It seemed as if he had reached her. She walked over to her brother and she hugged him tightly. I'm sorry, brother. I'm so sorry. It is okay, girl. Oh! She rammed her sword from his gut to his heart. He pulled it out and stepped back. He clutched his wound. Dropped down to one knee. Garion, why? I refuse to do as I was made. I want to live. raise my daughter, even if it's in a land destroyed by me. I can't let that happen. He closed his eyes. And he began to glow. First a greenish color, then it turned blue, and then a vibrant purple, and then a bright red. And she looked, and she knew what was coming. She looked to her daughter. Go now! Go! Where shall I go, mother? Anywhere but here. As her daughter disappeared into the mist, her brother, the energy that he held within him, engulfed them both. Gone were they. Gone. Esmeralda ended up wandering through dimension after dimension, always hating Garion, swearing to destroy anything that he created or had a hand in creating, but she couldn't find her way back. Her mother was like a beacon. You know what I'm saying? Only beings of her kind can find beings of her kind. Now, let's go back to the woman whom Garion left on the rock mountain by the shore. Pregnant, she gave birth to a child, a male child, whom she named Garion. He lived as a human lived, his powers dormant into maturity. At the age of 18, he matured into his being, one like his father. Just not as powerful, but powerful more than anything else on the earth at the time. He fought for good. He took a wife, and their descendants continued on for many, many years, until Esmeralda found one of his descendants. Now, what ended up happening was that she found this one descendant. She didn't know that he had fathered children, but he did, several children. He was a little bit of a, let's say, womanizer. Several children scattered across the planet. She hunted them down one by one until they were all dead. Dead except for one. His name was Darren. He didn't know he was a descendant of greatness. He had no idea. He's just a regular guy living in Scotland, in the Midlands, Highlands, or the Lowlands, with his family. But the powers would not be manifest in him. They would only be manifest in his son. So, while out on a seaside holiday, he and his son and wife were on the shores, fishing, having stories of family stuff, when Esmeralda tore a hole through the void in which she came, seeking Garion. Of course, little Garion had no idea who he was or what he was, but it all came crashing into him as soon as Esmeralda spoke his name. His powers manifested, and a battle like no other was set to take place. But I've run out of time, so you're going to have to tune in to story number 91 when I continue the story of Garion the Great.